Have you ever felt uncomfortable and anxious when you are alone with yourself? Do you find yourself constantly reaching for your phone, turning on the TV, or playing music just to distract yourself? Stoicism emerges as a pillar of wisdom in moments of uncertainty and mental noise. In today's video, I will share 13 carefully selected valuable teachings to help you cultivate a deeper and more authentic relationship with yourself. Now, if you are new here, please like the video and subscribe. Statistics show that only 15% of my audience is subscribed to the channel, so if this content has helped you in any way, I ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now, let's start this transformative journey together. These words are meant to be a relief for the soul, a reminder that distraction is temporary and that strength lies within you waiting to be activated. Whether you are feeling the pressure of modern life or loneliness, these teachings are here to offer you support, motivation, and hope. But before we begin, I have a challenge for you. Stay until the end and don't miss any of these lessons, as one of them might be the key to changing your destiny forever. 1. Cultivate a friendship with yourself. I remember a particularly difficult time in my life when everything seemed to be against me and I felt like I had no one to turn to. I was alone, facing my own insecurities and doubts. It was during this time that I discovered the power of cultivating a friendship with myself. Instead of seeking comfort in others, I decided to turn my attention inward. I started by dedicating time each day to reflect and be silent, something I had never done before. In those moments of quiet, I began to understand my fears, desires, and strengths better. It was a slow and sometimes painful process, but incredibly revealing. Just like a friendship with another person, the friendship with myself required patience, understanding, and acceptance. During those times, I read a lot about Stoicism and found a quote by Epictetus that resonated deeply with me. "The wise man wants to always be with himself." These words became my mantra. They helped me remember that true peace and satisfaction do not come from external sources, but from a deep understanding and acceptance of oneself. There were days when solitude felt overwhelming, but instead of avoiding it, I embraced it. I realized that by being alone, I had the opportunity to work on my self-knowledge and strengthen my relationship with myself. I practiced gratitude exercises where each day I wrote down things I was grateful for. This not only improved my outlook on life, but also helped me appreciate my own qualities and achievements more. Through this process, I began to notice significant changes in my life. My self-confidence grew, my decisions became clearer, and I started to feel an inner peace that I had never experienced before. The strength and resilience I developed during this time have stayed with me ever since, allowing me to face challenges with a stronger mind and heart. Today, I can say with certainty that the best relationship you can cultivate is with yourself. This inner friendship is the foundation upon which all other relationships and experiences in life are built. If you ever feel lost or alone, remember that you can always find comfort and strength within yourself. You are your best friend, and through acceptance and self-knowledge, you can discover a world of peace and possibilities. 2. The importance of solitude. The importance of solitude is something I did not always understand. For a long time, I feared being alone and did everything possible to avoid those moments of isolation. However, it was during a particularly challenging phase of my life that I learned the true value of solitude. I remember one night when I felt completely overwhelmed. I had been surrounded by people all day, yet I still felt incredibly alone. I decided to take a night walk alone with my thoughts. The city was quiet, and as I walked, I began to reflect on my life and experiences. It was in that quiet that I found a clarity I had never experienced before. Stoicism taught me that solitude is not something to fear, but something to embrace. By being alone, I could listen to my inner voice without the distractions of the outside world. I found comfort in the words of Marcus Aurelius, who said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." These words reminded me that inner peace is something we can all find if we just give ourselves the time and space to seek it. I began to make solitude a regular practice. Each day, I dedicated time to be alone, whether meditating, reading, or simply reflecting. I discovered that these moments of solitude were incredibly revitalizing. They allowed me to recharge and face the world with a renewed perspective. In solitude, I could process my emotions and thoughts more effectively, without the external influences that often clouded my judgment. During this time, I also learned to enjoy my own company. I began to engage in activities that I genuinely liked and that allowed me to connect with myself more deeply. Whether walking in nature, writing in my journal, or simply sitting in silence, these moments became a source of great satisfaction and well-being. Solitude taught me to be self-sufficient and to find strength within myself. I realized that I did not need constant validation or company from others to feel complete. This understanding was liberating and allowed me to cultivate a healthier relationship with myself and others. Today, I deeply value those moments of solitude. They have allowed me to grow, heal, and discover parts of myself that would otherwise have remained hidden. If you ever feel afraid of being alone, I encourage you to change your perspective and see solitude as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself. In those moments of quiet, you can find a peace and clarity that will transform your life. 3. Live in the present. Living in the present is a lesson that took me a long time to learn. Like many, I used to constantly worry about the future and lament the past. But there was a moment in my life that changed this perspective completely. One afternoon, while walking in the park, I found myself watching a group of children playing. They were not worried about what would come next or what had happened before. They were simply enjoying the moment. I realized that, like those children, I also had the ability to live in the present, but I had forgotten. At that time, I began to study more about Stoicism and found a quote by Seneca that deeply resonated with me. "While we wait for life, life passes." These words made me reflect on how many times I had failed to enjoy the present moment because I was caught up in thoughts about the future or the past. I decided to make a conscious change. I began to practice mindfulness, what the ancient Stoics called proch. Each day I dedicated myself to being truly present in whatever I was doing, whether it was drinking a cup of coffee, working on a project, or simply talking with a friend. I made an effort to be fully immersed in that activity. At first it was not easy. My mind tended to wander, but over time it became more natural. One of the methods I used was the technique of mindful breathing. Whenever I found myself lost in thoughts about the future or the past, I focused on my breathing. I inhaled deeply, feeling the air fill my lungs, and then exhaled slowly, letting go of any worries. This simple but powerful practice helped anchor me in the present. As I became more aware of the present moment, I began to notice significant changes in my life. I felt less stressed and more content. The small things I used to overlook began to bring me joy. A sunset, the birdsong, a sincere conversation with a friend. All these experiences became richer and more meaningful. Reflecting on my days, I realized that many of my worries were unfounded. I had been missing the beauty of the now because I was too worried about what might happen tomorrow. I understood that the future is uncertain and the past cannot be changed, but the present is all we really have. By living in the present, I discovered an inner peace that I had been searching for a long time. I realized that every moment is a gift, and that living fully in the present is the key to a happier and more satisfying life. If you ever find yourself trapped in anxiety about the future or sadness about the past, remember that now is all you have. Make the most of every moment. Live fully, and you will find the serenity and happiness you seek. 4. Control your emotions. Controlling your emotions is a skill I have always admired in others, but found difficult to master myself. I used to let my emotions take over, reacting impulsively to stressful situations. However, there was a turning point that led me to take control of my emotions and change my life for the better. I remember a day at work when everything seemed to go wrong. An important project was failing, my boss was upset, and I felt the pressure building on my shoulders. Instead of staying calm, I exploded and let my frustration take over. After that experience, I felt ashamed and realized I needed to find a better way to manage my emotions. That was when I started to delve into Stoic philosophy. A quote by Epictetus resonated with me. "It's not the things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." These words made me understand that my emotional reactions were not caused by the events themselves, but by how I interpreted and responded to them. I decided I needed a change. I started practicing self-reflection, analyzing my emotional reactions, and trying to understand why I reacted a certain way. I realized that often my emotions were a response to irrational thoughts or unfounded fears. By becoming aware of these patterns, I could begin to challenge and change my thinking. Additionally, I started incorporating daily meditation into my routine. Dedicating a few minutes each day to meditate helped calm my mind and develop greater awareness of my thoughts and emotions. This practice allowed me to observe my emotions without judging them or reacting impulsively. Instead of letting anger or frustration take over, I learned to breathe deeply and respond more controlled and rationally. Over time, I began to notice a big difference. My personal relationships improved as I could communicate more effectively without letting negative emotions interfere. At work, my colleagues and my boss noticed my change and respected me for my ability to stay calm under pressure. Controlling your emotions is not something that happens overnight, but with practice and patience, it is possible. Today, I feel more balanced and at peace. I have learned that controlling my emotions does not mean repressing them, but understanding and managing them healthily. If you ever feel that your emotions are out of control, remember that you have the power to change that. Through self-reflection, meditation, and constant practice, you can develop the skill to stay calm and clear in any situation. 5. Authenticity. Authenticity is a value I have always admired in others, but found challenging to cultivate in my own life. For a long time, I found myself adapting my behavior and opinions to please others, fearing rejection and constantly seeking external approval. However, there was a crucial moment that led me to reconsider my approach and value the importance of being authentic. There was an occasion when I attended a social gathering with friends and acquaintances. Throughout the night, I found myself saying things I didn't really mean and behaving in a way that did not reflect my true self, just to fit in. By the end of the night, I felt exhausted and empty, as if I had betrayed who I really am. That experience made me reflect deeply on the importance of authenticity. In my quest to be more authentic, I found inspiration in Stoicism. A quote by Seneca resonated deeply with me. "What you need to live a full life is already within you." These words reminded me that I do not need the validation of others to feel complete. Everything I need is already within me. I decided to make a conscious change. I started practicing self-acceptance, recognizing my strengths and weaknesses without judgment. This was a crucial step towards being more authentic, as it allowed me to feel comfortable with who I really am. I also began to express my thoughts and opinions honestly, even if it meant disagreeing with others. At first it was difficult, and I felt vulnerable, but over time I discovered that authenticity attracted people who genuinely valued and appreciated my true self. One of the strategies I found helpful was daily reflection. Each night I spent a few minutes reviewing my day, asking myself if I had acted authentically and if I had been true to my values and beliefs. This practice helped me identify situations where I had not been completely honest with myself or others, allowing me to correct my behavior in the future. Through this process, I discovered that being authentic not only made me feel happier and more at peace, but also improved my relationships. The people around me began to notice the change and responded positively to my new attitude. Authenticity allowed me to build deeper and more meaningful connections based on trust and mutual respect. Today, I deeply value authenticity and make a conscious effort to be true in all aspects of my life. I have learned that, although being authentic can be challenging and requires courage, it is essential to living a full and satisfying life. If you ever feel tempted to hide your true self out of fear of rejection, remember that being authentic is the key to attracting the right people and opportunities into your life. Trust that who you are is enough, and that authenticity will lead you to a richer and more meaningful life. 6. Practice emotional resilience. Practicing emotional resilience is a skill I learned over the years, especially during the most challenging times of my life. There was a stage when it seemed like everything was against me. I lost my job, an important relationship ended, and I felt my world was falling apart. It was then that I realized I needed to find a way to face these challenges without letting them defeat me. One night, after a particularly hard day, I found myself at home, alone and defeated. I decided to pick up a book on Stoicism that had been on my shelf for months. As I read about the teachings of Stoic philosophers, a quote by Marcus Aurelius deeply impacted me. "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." These words made me reflect on how I had been allowing negative thoughts to dominate my life. I decided to take control and start practicing emotional resilience. One of the first steps was to change my mindset. Instead of seeing challenges as insurmountable obstacles, I began to see them as opportunities to grow and learn. I reminded myself that difficulties are temporary and that I have the capacity to overcome them. I implemented a daily routine that helped strengthen my emotional resilience. Every morning, I dedicated time to meditation and writing in a gratitude journal. This simple act of focusing on the things I was grateful for helped me start the day with a positive outlook. I also included physical exercises in my routine, as I discovered that staying active not only benefited my physical health, but also my emotional well-being. During the most difficult moments, I relied on negative visualization, a Stoic practice that involves imagining the worst possible scenarios. This mentally prepared me for any eventuality and at the same time made me realize that many of my worries were exaggerated. By facing my fears in this way, I discovered they were less frightening than they seemed. Another important aspect of practicing emotional resilience was learning to accept what I could not change. I stopped resisting circumstances and began to focus on what I could control, my attitude and actions. This acceptance freed me from a great emotional burden and allowed me to face challenges with a clearer and more serene mind. Over time, I noticed that my ability to handle stress and difficulties improved significantly. I no longer felt overwhelmed by problems, but saw them as opportunities to strengthen myself. This new perspective not only helped me overcome that difficult stage, but also prepared me for future challenges. Practicing emotional resilience is not something that happens overnight, but with dedication and practice, it is possible to develop it. Today, I feel stronger and more capable of facing any obstacle that comes my way. If you ever feel defeated by circumstances, remember that you have the power to change your perspective and develop emotional resilience. In every challenge, there is an opportunity to grow and learn. Trust in your ability to overcome adversity, and you will find an inner strength you may not have known you had. 7. Compassion towards others. Compassion towards others is a quality I have always valued, but one I have not always practiced as consistently as I should. There was a time in my life when I was so wrapped up in my own problems that I did not pay attention to the struggles of those around me. It was a hard but necessary lesson that taught me the true value of compassion. I remember an occasion when a close friend went through a difficult situation. He was facing personal problems, and, although he mentioned it to me, I was so focused on my own challenges that I did not give him the attention he deserved. One day, he called me desperately, and I realized how much he needed my support. I felt deep shame for not being more present for him. That was when I decided I needed to change my approach. I began to study more about compassion and how to integrate it into my daily life. I read a quote by Epictetus that said, "Remember that others are also dealing with their own struggles." These words reminded me that we all carry invisible burdens and that a little compassion can make a big difference in someone's life. I started practicing compassion actively. Each day, I aimed to do at least one act of kindness, whether something as simple as listening attentively to someone or offering help without expecting anything in return. I discovered that these small gestures not only benefited others, but also made me feel more connected and satisfied. I also began to practice empathy, trying to put myself in others' shoes and understand their perspectives and feelings. This practice helped me be more patient and understanding, both with friends and family, and with strangers. One day, while waiting in a long line and seeing people around me grow impatient, I decided to smile and say something kind to the person behind me. Their face lit up, and I realized that sometimes a small act of compassion can have a significant impact. Compassion also taught me to be kinder to myself. I learned that to offer compassion to others, I first had to practice it with myself. I started forgiving myself for my mistakes and treating myself with the same kindness and understanding I offered to others. This self-compassion was crucial for my emotional well-being and allowed me to be a more genuine source of support for those around me. You have now reached the halfway mark of the video. I congratulate you for trying to become a better version of yourself, and I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "mind over body" so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Today, compassion is an integral part of my life. I have learned that being compassionate not only benefits others, but also enriches me. If you ever feel disconnected or overwhelmed by your own problems, remember that you are not alone. Others are also fighting their battles. Compassion towards others can be a source of healing and connection. In every act of kindness, you can find greater peace and satisfaction and make the world a slightly better place. 8. The power of introspection. When I think about the power of introspection, I can't help but remember a solitary walk on the beach at dawn. The sea breeze and the rhythmic sound of the waves created the perfect setting to reflect on my life. It was in that moment of tranquility that I realized how much I needed to dedicate time to looking inward. Introspection was not always a natural practice for me. I lived my life at a frantic pace, without stopping to think about my actions, thoughts, or emotions. But that morning on the beach, something changed. I decided to make introspection a regular part of my daily routine. I realized that to understand and improve my life, I had to first understand myself. I started keeping a journal where I wrote down my thoughts and feelings at the end of each day. This practice allowed me to see patterns in my behavior and emotions that I had previously overlooked. By putting my experiences on paper, I became aware of my recurring fears and the small joys I often ignored. This helped me gain clarity and make more informed decisions. One of the most revealing moments was when I read a quote by Socrates, "The unexamined life is not worth living." These words resonated deeply with me and reinforced my commitment to introspection. I realized that to live a full and meaningful life, I had to spend time examining my actions and motivations. Introspection also helped in my relationships. By better understanding my own needs and emotions, I could communicate more openly and honestly with others. This significantly improved the quality of my interactions and strengthened my connections with friends and family. During a moment of introspection, I realized that I often let the fear of failure hold me back. I reflected on the times I had avoided taking risks for fear of not meeting expectations and how that had limited me. I decided to face that fear, remembering Marcus Aurelius's words, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." With this new perspective, I began to see obstacles as opportunities to grow and learn. Introspection taught me to be more patient and compassionate with myself. I learned to accept my mistakes as part of the growth process and to see each challenge as an opportunity to deepen my understanding of myself. This self-understanding not only made me more resilient, but also allowed me to live a more authentic and meaningful life. Today, I deeply value moments of introspection. They have helped me navigate life's complexities with greater purpose and wisdom. If you ever feel lost or overwhelmed, I encourage you to dedicate time to introspection. In those moments of quiet reflection, you can find answers, direction, and greater inner peace. 9. The dichotomy of control. The dichotomy of control is a Stoic concept that transformed my view of the world. The first time I heard about this principle, I was in a situation where everything seemed out of control. I was at the airport waiting for a flight, surrounded by frustrated travelers. At that moment, I decided I did not want to be a victim of circumstances. That was when I remembered the Stoic teachings about the dichotomy of control. The essence of the dichotomy of control is simple but powerful. There are things we can control and things we cannot. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, explained it clearly. Some things are within our control and others are not. These words gave me a completely new perspective on how to face challenges. At the airport, instead of letting frustration and anger take over, I decided to focus on what I could control. I put my attention on how I responded to the situation. I took out a book and immersed myself in reading, transforming a negative experience into an opportunity to learn and grow. This small change in perspective made me feel calmer and more in control. From that day on, I began to apply the dichotomy of control in different aspects of my life. I started making a mental list of things that were under my control and those that were not. I realized that worrying about what I could not change only caused unnecessary stress. Instead, directing my energy towards what I could influence gave me a sense of power and serenity. One area where this had a significant impact was my work. Before, I used to stress about company decisions that were out of my control. But by adopting the dichotomy of control, I began to focus on my performance and how I could contribute positively. This new attitude not only improved my productivity, but also helped me feel more satisfied and fulfilled. Another transformative aspect was in my personal relationships. Instead of trying to change others, I began to accept that I could not control their actions or thoughts. This allowed me to be more understanding and patient, improving the quality of my interactions. By focusing on what I could control, my attitude and reactions, I was able to build healthier and more harmonious relationships. The dichotomy of control also helped me manage stress and anxiety in challenging situations. I reminded myself that although I could not control everything happening around me, I could always control my response. This practice allowed me to face challenges with a clearer mind and a calmer heart. The dichotomy of control is an essential tool in my life. It has taught me to let go of what I cannot change and to fully dedicate myself to what is within my control. If you ever feel stressed by circumstances, remember that you have the power to decide how to respond. By focusing on what you can control, you will find greater peace and a sense of empowerment that will help you face any challenge. 10. The power of gratitude. The power of gratitude is one of the most valuable lessons I have learned in my life. There was a time when I used to focus on what I lacked rather than appreciating what I had. That negative mindset affected my well-being and happiness. One day, while reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, I came across a phrase that changed my perspective. Do not be ungrateful for what you have while you pursue what you lack. These words made me reflect on how much I took for granted in my life. I decided to make a change. I started a gratitude journal where each night I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for. At first, they were simple things: a conversation with a friend, a sunny day, a delicious meal. However, I soon realized there was much more to be grateful for than I had imagined. This daily practice transformed my perspective. I began to notice the small blessings of each day and feel more content and satisfied. Gratitude not only improved my mood, but also helped me build stronger and more meaningful relationships. By expressing my gratitude to others, I saw how our connections deepened. Instead of focusing on what was going wrong, I started looking for the positive side in every situation. This did not mean ignoring problems, but recognizing the opportunities for learning and growth that each difficulty brought. Today, gratitude is an integral part of my life. It has taught me to appreciate the present and find joy in the simplest things. If you ever feel trapped in negativity, I encourage you to try gratitude. It may seem like a small change, but its impact on your life will be enormous. By practicing gratitude, you will find a new source of happiness and well-being that will transform your perspective and your life. 11. Discover your inner strength. Discovering your inner strength is a personal and transformative journey. I clearly remember a time when I felt completely defeated. I had lost my job, and things in my personal life were not going well. In those dark moments, I felt weak and directionless. That was when I decided to seek inspiration in Stoic philosophy. I found a quote by Seneca that deeply impacted me. "We do not know what we are capable of until we try." These words made me realize I had an inner strength I had not yet explored. I decided to face my fears and challenges head-on. I started by setting small daily goals. Each day, I committed to doing something that brought me closer to my goals, no matter how insignificant it seemed. This approach allowed me to accumulate small victories that over time became significant achievements. Through this process, I discovered a resilience I did not know I had. I began to see challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to grow and strengthen myself. I remembered another Stoic teaching, this time from Epictetus. "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This phrase became my mantra. I also found strength in introspection. Spending time in silence, reflecting on my experiences and emotions, allowed me to understand myself better and discover internal resources I had not previously tapped into. Meditation and self-evaluation became daily practices that helped me stay centered and balanced. Inner strength was also cultivated through acceptance. Accepting my limitations and failures instead of fighting against them allowed me to free myself from the burden of self-criticism. I learned to be more compassionate with myself, which ironically made me stronger. This journey toward discovering my inner strength not only helped me overcome immediate challenges, but also prepared me to face future difficulties with greater confidence and determination. Today, I feel stronger and more capable than I ever imagined. If you ever feel lost or weak, remember that within you lies a strength waiting to be discovered. Through perseverance, introspection, and acceptance, you can find that strength and use it to transform your life. 12. The importance of silence. The importance of silence is something I did not always appreciate. In a society where constant noise and frenetic activity are the norm, I used to fill every moment of my day with some form of distraction. It was only when I experienced a period of sensory overload that I realized how much I needed silence in my life. I clearly remember one afternoon, after a particularly hectic day, I felt mentally and emotionally exhausted. I decided to take a walk in the park without my headphones, just me and the natural sounds around me. As I walked, I realized how rare it was for me to be in silence. Without the constant noise, my thoughts began to clear, and I could hear my inner voice with greater clarity. I read a quote by Zeno of Citium that said, "Silence is a space where the spirit can find itself." These words resonated deeply with me. I realized that I had been avoiding silence out of fear of facing my own thoughts and emotions. However, during that walk in the park, I discovered that silence was not something to fear, but something to embrace. I began incorporating moments of silence into my daily routine. Whether through meditation, sitting in silence for a few minutes each morning, or simply turning off all devices and enjoying the quiet. These moments became valuable opportunities to reflect and recharge. Silence also helped me improve my listening skills. By becoming more comfortable with silence, I could fully focus on conversations and truly listen to others without feeling the need to interrupt or fill empty spaces with words. This practice significantly improved my personal and professional relationships. Additionally, silence allowed me to become more aware of my thoughts and emotions. By eliminating external noise, I could better tune into my inner world. This helped me identify and process my feelings more effectively, leading to greater clarity and mental peace. One of the most valuable Stoic teachings I apply is from Epictetus. Be silent often, but when you speak, do so to say something valuable. This reminded me that silence is not only a tool for introspection, but also a way to make my words and actions more meaningful. Today, I deeply value the power of silence. It has taught me to find peace amidst chaos and connect with my inner self in a way I had never experienced before. If you ever feel overwhelmed by the constant noise of the world, I encourage you to seek silence. In those moments of quiet, you will find a source of wisdom and tranquility that can transform your life. 13. Find yourself. Finding myself was a journey of self-discovery that profoundly changed my life. For a long time, I lived according to the expectations of others, losing sight of who I really was and what I wanted. This deviation led to a personal crisis where I felt disconnected and lost. Everything changed one weekend when I decided to step away from the routine and spend time alone in a cabin in the mountains. Without the usual distractions, I faced a solitude that initially scared me, but soon became a revealing companion. I read about the importance of knowing oneself and remembered a quote by Socrates, "Know thyself." These words became my guide. In the cabin, I began to reflect on my life, my decisions, and my true desires. Without the noise of everyday life, I could listen to my inner voice and recognize the areas where I was not being true to myself. I realized I had been living according to others' expectations instead of following my own path. I decided to make a conscious change. I started exploring my passions and dedicating time to activities I truly enjoyed, like art and writing. This process allowed me to reconnect with parts of myself that I had neglected. Each day, I asked myself deep questions. What makes me happy? What do I want to achieve? How can I be more authentic? These reflections helped me discover my true passions and align my actions with my values. A practice I found invaluable was guided meditation focused on self-discovery. Through these sessions, I learned to observe my thoughts and emotions without judging them, allowing me to understand myself better. I also started keeping a journal where I wrote down my daily reflections and discoveries. This act of writing provided me with clarity and helped me see my progress over time. The process of finding myself also involved accepting my imperfections and forgiving myself for past mistakes. I learned that self-compassion is crucial for personal growth. By letting go of self-criticism, I could move forward with a greater sense of freedom and authenticity. Today, I feel more connected to myself and more confident in who I am and what I want in life. Finding oneself is not a destination, but a continuous journey of self-knowledge and growth. If you ever feel lost, remember that the journey to yourself is the most valuable you can undertake. Take the time to explore your passions, reflect on your values, and listen to your inner voice. In this process, you will find a source of strength and clarity that will guide you towards a more authentic and fulfilling life. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.